but I got to hit it too.
All right, so we are live on all platforms, I believe so. And then I am turning on my Instagram. So we are live on my Instagram too.
All right, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? My name's Eddie Miranda, and I am actually here with an old buddy of mine that we used to work together, Chris Solis. What's up, Chris?
Hey, how are you? What's going on, Eddie?
Not much, man. So we decided to kind of do this little live stream and just chat, like just talk about stuff that's kind of like happening right now, stuff that's happening in the market. But we also want to kind of like talk about like some books too. But what were you kind of thinking, Chris? Like what in the market do you want to talk, or do you just want to go? I know we kind of like discussed a little bit earlier, like how I got into like funnel building and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, let's go over backgrounds for sure. I also just kind of what are you seeing in the marketplace right now, digital landscape, what's popular, what's kind of oversaturated, where are kind of people moving towards. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff we could hit on there, different types of
yeah.
products that are popular right now. But yeah, why don't you give us a little background? I mean, we met, we met working together. I mean, you have a background building funnels, running traffic. You're kind
Yeah.
of an all-in-one digital marketer. So why don't you kind of give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny like how I got into the digital space because I was a designer and a website builder by trade. Like I was doing that for years before I even got into it. But it was in like 2019, and me and my wife at the time, we just finished having our first kid, and we were living in California for about like 10 months because we were there for a specific project that I was working on. And when we came back, like I lost everything in between 2008, the end of 2018, going into 2019. And at the beginning of 2019, I was like, I just want to take a different direction. So one of the first things I decided to get into was like thinking about getting into was like drop shipping and actually Amazon FBA. So like I actually went to like a couple meetups here in Miami about it, but got into drop shipping and that's how I actually got into paid ads, because without having paid ads ran to a store, there was no way for me to be able to make revenue. But like I learned everything on my own when it came down to it. I literally modeled other people's drop shipping stores in order to like figure out what to do and how to do it and everything like that. But at the same time, I also got into funnel building, and it was kind of weird on like how I got into funnel building because when I was in California, I kept on seeing ClickFunnels and the ads for it and everything like that. I'm like, oh, that's like whatever, like that's not a big deal. But then I start realizing in 2019, I'm like, oh, this is actually becoming a really, really big deal. So I ended up seeing like the one funnel away challenge, and I actually like bought the course. It was like $97 or $100 at the time. I ended up doing that, and then I'm like, oh man, this is actually really, really cool, like to do this and to build it. And it was easy for me to build it. And then it so happened to be that my wife at the time, she was working, or she wasn't working, she was doing an opportunity with Herbalife in network marketing. And I was telling her, I'm like, man, there has to be a different way for you to be able to like start getting prospects and start getting clients than like what like everybody else is doing. So I already had like this weird vision for like network marketing even before like it became like it's still, even it's not even a huge play anyways inside the industry. And I was like, what, let me see if there's another way to do this. So I actually found a guy named Stephen J. Larson. And he was showing people on how to utilize funnels for the network marketing business. So I hired a guy, on Fiverr to have that done and everything like that. We ran ads to it and everything, and we started getting people. It was pretty cool. But then like I was like, okay, well, if I could do this for network marketing, then I could do this for some of the clients that I had. So I had one of my buddies that he was owned a Gold's Gym. He's like, hey, I need to run ads and funnels for my 5 gyms in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I was like, okay, built them funnels, built them everything like that. And then like COVID ended up happening. So then all those businesses shut down. So I'm like, okay, crap, like what do I do? So I ended up fine tuning my skills. So I actually like read one book. Do I have it here? Oh yeah, right here. I actually read this one by like Dan Henry, Digital Millionaire Secrets.
Right.
And I started learning how to be able to like run challenges and build courses by using Facebook groups. So like one of the things that I did for myself was I ran like a 3-day workshop challenge and to do attraction marketing because of all my background that I've had with the network marketing and the bodybuilding industry and all that kind of stuff, and started doing stuff on my own. So I ran ads to that, filled the group up to like 150 people, and built an entire course off of it. Then start running that as a self-liquidating offer. I ended up getting this guy that created a children's book, a Christian children's book. Did a funnel for him. We rocked it with that. So then like I started building my skills with that and just started doing more and more and more and running ads and doing all this stuff and like learning everything with my own money basically. um and then it got me to the point that like got pretty darn good at it, man. So it's like being able to do it with a lot of high ticket coaches, a lot of different SaaS companies, things like that. So it's been kind of like a journey, like kind of like doing all that stuff, and it's been like really really fun doing it too. So um but yeah, like what about you, Chris? Because I know that you have more of a background of like development and copywriting and things like that. Like how did you get into like all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it was similar to your story, Eddie. I ran across Russell Brunson's materials right through Grant Cardone back in 2018, right back when he was at the GrowthCon back
Mm,
then. And that material totally blew my mind. I didn't, it I didn't understand the value of funnels and the way how you could just create these guided experiences, right? The guided sales experience to me was just an amazing thing because I
mm,
had grown up kind of in the more business development, customer service, and sales areas, right? I was in customer service in the financial media space for years. And then I built sales teams and managed marketing teams. And then when I learned about funnels, it just blew my mind because it really just took everything to the next level. You could now all of a sudden leverage, right? And you could reach a huge audience with a singular message, right? On a singular
mm.
platform, or like we're doing right now on many platforms, which I think is the
Yeah.
next evolution of all this, right? And just learning how to sell online, learning how to get in front of a camera, how to sell on a funnel, right? How to do a VSL, how to film a landing page video. Things like that are all practiced and just getting into it, right? Throughout my career was just trial and error, like doing things, trying funnels, trying them at sometimes with high profile clients, high profile employers, right? And
Mm,
and just testing and seeing what works. So it's great. I think it's changing though. I think the marketplace is shifting.
yeah.
And the bottom line though is you're still going to have to be able to get on camera and sell yourself, sell your product, sell your message. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, like going to like how the industry's kind of changing, and this is kind of like the research that I've been doing for quite a while, right? Like, and I remember like back in 2020, 2021, 2022 era, like everybody was going like, hey, you don't have to, because again, I went during COVID and even before that, like learning about funnels, I went through all of Russell Brunson's book. He had .com secrets and expert secrets at that time. And I always knew about the value ladder, right? Like going something low ticket, then taking them to a mid ticket thing, right? And that's the journey that Russell would take you through his books, right? He came out with .com secrets first because he's like, you're going to make your first million off of doing a self liquidating offer, right? And then progressively take you into expert secrets, which is a webinar play, which is going to get you to your next part of it, right? And that was always the progression that I knew. But going into, you know, at the after COVID era, everybody's like, well, just go straight to high ticket. And that worked, right? Doing video sales letter funnels, doing application funnels, sending people to a call, book to a sales team or even yourself, right? So you guys could prove out the offer. And that worked. That worked for a good while, right? Everybody was getting people on calls, the people were qualified, it was great. But the market's definitely shifting right now in a huge way, right? And the way that it's kind of shifting is that And this is the talk of the town. I actually just got off the phone with one of my buddies, and he's like, "Bro, like our conversation, what we've been having, is actually being had by a lot of people, and it's a trust factor right now." Um, and what I mean by that is just people have been burned too much. There's so many people in the game right now that they don't know who to go to, what to go to, right? I remember when I started one of my projects, Men's Physique News, like there was nobody doing what I was doing at the end of the day. I was able to grow a follower really, really rapidly. And people were like, oh my God, like this is the best thing. And now you look at the industry and everybody's doing the exact same thing that I was doing. So, like, if I were to even come back into that industry and try to do it again, it will be so much harder, right? Because there's so many different people doing it. So, like, everybody's just trying to grab your attention. And that's literally what's kind of happening inside of this coaching, consulting, education industry right now. There's so many players out there that you really have to be able to grab people's attention, and not only grab their attention, retain their attention and build that trust, because there's so many programs out there. They don't know who to go to. They don't know if that person's going to give them the results. And I think that that's like a huge shift that's really happening right now. Like VSLs are kind of like dying, especially them being on the front end. And you're going to have to go back to like what Russell was teaching, going back to low ticket and doing that first. So that's kind of like what I've been seeing. Is that something that you've been seeing inside of the industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, those trends have been happening, especially since AI, right? Ever since AI
Mm,
came out and the speed at which people can learn about funnels and learn about digital marketing, learn about these strategies that for a long time were basically they were secrets, right? There were a certain group of people who knew how to build these digital sales experiences, right? And
yeah,
after, these books came out and now with AI, right, everyone can kind of get this stuff pretty much served up to them within a matter of minutes. So I think that has been changing for a couple of years. But then, yeah, in the last year or so, there's so many people in the marketplace making the similar type of offers. A lot of them that don't have the experience, right? We see a lot of customers have been burnt like that, unfortunately. So there's a trust factor for sure, Eddie. I see that with a lot of clients that I talk to, a lot of prospective clients, and it makes it hard, right? Because to
yeah,
do what we do effectively, we need to sell things in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, right? It's
yeah,
it's not good for us and not good for the client to charge 2,500 or less because I
yeah,
can't deliver a level of quality service that I would if I were to be able to charge you more. But you have to trust me in order to be able to give me $10,000. To give me 5 to 10,000 a month, there has to be trust there, and there
yeah,
has to be credibility. There has to be examples of prior success, right? And there has to be results. It's got to be tied to something that brings in traffic. Now, can you do it on a low ticket way? Yeah, I think that's also true, right? So like we always look at things from the consulting angle, and then you go and you look at things from now what we're seeing is very popular, which is the community angle, right? It used to be
yeah,
newsletters in the old days, which are still popular, right? But newsletters have now become communities, and
yeah.
communities you can offer a lot of value at a very low cost, at a low ticket price. So I know you're launching one, right? I mean, you're in the community business as well. Like, tell me a little bit
Mm.
about how you're building out your community offers because they're very valuable and they're profitable, right? Because you get people together and you teach them something. So it's cool. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the play is communities, and I had something come to my mind and it totally slipped, but yeah, like basically what we're kind of doing with the community model, right, is that we're trying to cycle people in at a very cheap rate, right? Oh, now I remember self-liquidating offers, because we had talked about that. The thing is, like with self-liquidating offers as well, going low ticket, you still need something on the back end, right? Like, because what ends up happening, you end up washing out your ad spend. You're not going to be a millionaire doing, low ticket, right? That's just not going to end up happening, because what's going to end up happening is going to help them progress into something else, like a low, a mid-ticket offer or a high ticket offer, right? And that's where you kind of got to look at it in that sense, because um that's where people are kind of going to, so they're selling more on the back end. So when you start applying that inside of a community itself, that's where it's kind of key, right? You could do something like a low ticket, right, or 27, $37, getting people into a community and then start nurturing them. And when you're inside that community, that's where the real fun happens, right? Because now you have to kind of go what like Alex Hormozy does, is like give them as much free value as possible, right? So that they could know who you are, they could get to, be see the style of teaching, the style of person that you are, and connect with you and see if you really solve the problem that they have, right? And I'll give you a great example, because when I started getting into the community, arena was in, I mean, I think Men's Physique News was one of them, but it really wasn't a community. It got built up like a community. But when I was helping my wife with network marketing in 2021, when I made that pivot after COVID, and basically I built up a community. And the cool part about it is that they landed on the landing page that had my bio. They knew my face and everything like that. They opted into that through that landing page, and then landed inside of my community or my Facebook group at the time. And they were able to devour or digest some of the content that was already in there. So when I would go live every Thursday at 11 p.m. EST, I still remember it, they would like, "Oh my God, Eddie, you're freaking amazing. Like, I love your stuff," right? So that holds a lot of weight, right? And that's the play that kind of needs to happen now, right? But here's the problem, right? We put a lot of money on the upfront with lead gens and things like that that we may not be able to recoup until later, right? Sometimes we could let in 100 people into a Facebook group, and maybe two of them, are probably turned over into a high ticket sale. Well, I already spent about $1,000 in total, maybe $1,500 in total, just to get that person converted, right? So it gets kind of expensive at the end of the day. So the play right now to do is to actually be able to do this as a low ticket offer, right? Combining a self-liquidating offer with a community, and you actually self-liquidate your people coming in, and you also get higher quality people coming in too, because when they pay in order to go into your mini course or whatever the case may be, that's already a paying customer. So if they're paying $27 for something, that's already a paying customer. All you have to do is just nurture them just a little bit more, and they're more inclined to pay $5,000 to $10,000 for your additional services, because one, they're already seeing the content from the actual mini course. Two, if you put the mini course inside of a community, they can already see all the content that you already have. You could actually boost them up in there, especially if you do this inside of school. And then afterwards, you could already be calling like, "Hey, I'm going to be doing a quick little webinar inside of my community." Cool. Now you can upsell them, right? You could upsell them into a 5 or 10K thing, because they've already consumed so much content that you're the hero in all of this, and you're going to help them out with the problem that they need solving. So I think it's a humongous play. A lot of high ticket coaches are actually moving into that particular, into that particular direction, because it is the way to go right now. Nurture is the way to go. Trust is at an all-time low, and people really need to be able to be comfortable with those decisions of getting into a particular program.
I was just taking a picture of you there on the live stream. What do you think about these live streams in particular? I think that the popularity, especially of live stream selling in places like China, on TikTok, and we should talk about that as well, the TikTok ban or the potential TikTok ban. But actually, let's hit that first. What are your thoughts on TikTok and kind of what's going to happen with that? Like, January 15th, if they don't sell the company, right, to a U.S. entity, we're not going to have TikTok in the U.S. How is that going to affect the digital marketing landscape? Is that going to affect advertisers? Do you think it's going to affect content creators more? Like, what is going to be the real impact of that?
I think it's going to be a huge impact and in a few different ways. One, I think that a lot of people that have made their money off of TikTok are going to go, belly up overnight. That's one major thing, right? Because you have e-com stores that are utilizing TikTok for all their e-com. Like I will tell you, my mother-in-law, she doesn't make a lot of money, but goddamn, there's a package landing at our doorstep every single freaking day because she orders something on TikTok. So a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money on that platform, right? To a lot of creators have probably established themselves on there. Like I know a lot of creators that established themselves on TikTok first before they started doing shorts on YouTube, before they, start posting up their reels on Instagram and on Facebook. Um, so it's going to be a huge hit. Secondly, or thirdly, basically, um, the major impact that this will have if they do this ban is that if they could do it to TikTok, they could do it to any other platform right now. And I think that that's like the huge thing right now, because if they ban TikTok, and mind you, I don't think that the president coming into office on January 20th is going to do that because he's on TikTok himself, right? Even Kamala, or Kamala, how you say her name, is on TikTok as well. So the fact that this is being pushed through is very, very odd. And they're saying it's for, security reasons. But, I think it's just because of the fact that it is just being owned by an entity that's not in the US. Because if you looked at LinkedIn, it's owned inside of the US. You looked at Meta, owned inside the US. You look at YouTube, owned inside the US, right? Like all of these, X is owned inside the US. TikTok is the only popular platform that is not owned inside of the US, and our government has an issue with that, I believe, right? So it would either way. I still think that if they could do it to TikTok, they could do it to Meta, they could do it to Google, they could do it to any other platform out there. So it will be very detrimental in order to do it. Now, should there be an entity inside of the US for it? Absolutely. And I think that I don't know, you could correct me if you can, Chris, but I think there already is a part ownership of it inside the US, but I think they want to sell the entire company into the US, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. It's got to be the fact that it's partially owned by Chinese. So yeah, they don't want any
Yeah.
data going over to China. I mean that's the
Yeah. And I think that there's data houses here in the US too for all the data, but
yeah
I
they
think
operate here. They operate here, right? They're running here. They have offices here. You
yeah.
can go work for TikTok here in the U.S. But
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with the reps here in the US, like when we were working with Cardone together. Like I used to get on the phone with them all the time. Now they still had to use Chinese platforms in order to communicate and do all this stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a mesh there.
yeah, yeah, the platforming is interesting. I mean, now that iPhone is integrating AI, right? I think the iPhone is trying to become the next entry point in the funnel. The funnel is now moving to the device, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We used to have softwares like ClickFunnels and Go High Level and a bunch of great softwares, which are fantastic softwares. But now the hardware players are moving in, right? iPhone wants to come in and provide AI directly on your phone. It's going to cut out all those other middlemen. What about landing pages on phones, Eddie? You think we're ever going to have landing pages on right directly on our phone? If I meet you at a public event and we exchange contact details, can I just like share my landing page with you from my iPhone? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I you could do that right now anyways, but I mean, look at what Meta has been doing with like instant experiences and Insta forms, right? Like on platform, it's technically a landing page, right? Like
Yeah.
because if you do it correctly, it's a questionnaire. You could have testimonials on there. You could do all this stuff on the Meta platform without having to go onto um, a landing page itself. So I think that that's the direction that a lot of things are kind of going into anyways, because people want a better experience, and that's why Meta has done it. Now you may not be getting the best quality leads coming through those avenues, but the fact that it's on platform, like I literally taught an entire course on how to utilize Meta as your funnel and not even use a landing page, right? Because you have the Insta forms, you have the messengers, you have all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's kind of like the way everything's kind of going, right? Like, because the experience on a landing page, things like that, like even on like like TikTok, like you can't have like long lenders. You can't take them to a webinar. We've had those issues before, right? Like you can't take them to a long form copy page. It has to be very short and concise, right? So that's kind of like you're already happening on like on platforms like TikTok and things like that. I think on like X, as far as that, I think the longer the better, but that's not even that platform, that ad platform's not even to a point that has on platform Insta forums and things like that. I know TikTok does, Meta does. I mean, I don't do anything on LinkedIn or anything like that, but I think that that's the way to go. It's like a better experience, and that's what I think that everybody's trying to achieve right now.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah. So, dude, like from your perspective, I mean, from a development standpoint, like where do you see this kind of going? Because I know you've worked for some pretty high profile people, and you're kind of like in the weeds with like all those kinds of people. Like, where do you see them moving into?
Which you mean just higher profile, experts, and
Yeah,
where are they kind of focusing their attention?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think there's two camps, right? It's those who are kind of traditional high profile experts who are trying to play catch up in the digital space, right? And then there are the digital experts who are trying to broaden out and trying to reach, more of a mainstream audience. So I think you're always going to have both kind of worlds, which is interesting because both kinds of people need different services, right? I still think the community is a huge thing, right? Building some kind of place where your followers or your customers can come to on a regular basis to learn more about your products and services, to learn more about what you're into, right? I think that is going to be key going forward because you got to, people want to commit their time to something that's going to be valuable, and they want to go somewhere where they're going to feel like they belong, right? And I think
mm,
creating that environment is going to be key for any kind of expert. Live events are also huge. That's part of that, right? Like running events and
yeah,
having people meet. I know ClickFunnels is doing their last event, right, in 2025. That I think that's very interesting, given that we see a lot of demand in the event business. All of the conferences in Vegas, everywhere, all those conference centers are booked out, years in advance, and yet a lot of these marketing companies are not doing these big live
yeah.
events anymore. So, what do you think about that? I think that's kind of interesting that ClickFunnels is moving away from that.
I've always wanted to go to a ClickFunnels event. I've never been to one, and it's kind of odd that they would stop at 10. Um, so it's that's kind of like a weird thing. I don't know if maybe it's a marketing ploy, like, hey, this is our last one, and then they really do announce an 11th one. Like, I don't know that, but
Yeah.
it would make me want to go. So I'm probably going to end up buying my ticket in a couple of weeks just to go, because like I don't want to say I've been on
Yeah.
ClickFunnels for 5-6 years. I don't want to say I've never been to a ClickFunnels event. Um,
So the
so
scarcity and urgency gotcha.
yeah, dude, because I'm like, oh yeah, I should have. I should have gone to the ones when they were in Orlando. Like, dude, I would just drive 4 hours, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's not a big deal. But this one's in Vegas, which is the city that I freaking hate. Uh, and but I have to go because I've been in this community for quite a long time, and the fact that I haven't been to a ClickFunnels event is like actually, um, yeah, like I need to go. I
What
basically
what are
need
you
to.
looking like? What would you look forward to most at a ClickFunnels event? Would you like to meet other influencers? Would you like to see the presentations? Like, what are you there for?
Dude, I would actually like to meet all the people that I talk to on Facebook. Like, because I talk to a lot of people in the industry through DMs, through comments, through everything like that. We share ideas and all this stuff. And I would definitely love to be able to connect with everybody that I've spoken to, or even anybody that I've admired, right? Like one of them is that, and I know he pretty much speaks almost at every single ClickFunnels, is Stephen Larson, right? Because he's the one that got me into funnel building. He's the one that made me see like, hey, I could use this for network marketing. Like, I would love to be able to go up to him like, dude, it's been like 6 years, and shake his freaking hand and like, bro, you're the one that got me into funnel building. You know what I mean? And I've been inside his Facebook groups and everything like that too. And I knew his right hand man at the time, which was Colton Woods, and but I never spoken to him, right? But just being able to meet and talk to all these guys. um but at the end of the day, like, I think that events is another great pillar in order to have, right? Like, I just remember Tanner Chittister, he just put a comment out there not too long ago, And he was saying like the best thing that you could do is to do in-person events. He's like, it brings so much authority, it brings so much trust, especially if it's like a 2 to 3 day event, because they're with you intimately inside of a room. They get to know you, and to be able to sell higher ticket packages is just so much more effortless than just trying to do a webinar and things like that, right? Because they're right then and there. They get to connect with you. They get to shake your hands. So events is where it's at. And like I'll throw another example out there too. My buddy Carlos Alvarez, he's like one of the top FBA, Amazon FBA guys, private labels. He's sold 3 of his products for millions of dollars. And he literally does in-person events. He has one here in Miami, and he has one up in Tampa, if I'm not mistaken. And dude, every single week in-person events. And it's a free thing, but still, like, he generates so much business. And we were just talking the other day, and he's like, man, I made this funnel to teach people on how to do reviews on Amazon, and I didn't think anything of it. And I just said it on 2 of my podcasts, and I said it in person at the events. And dude, sales come in effortlessly without me even thinking about it. I'm making bank off of it because I haven't spent any ad dollars on it. He's even like, I had it up to 197 and it's still selling. And I'm like, dude, that's insane. So like, that's just the power of just like having events, like building that community, right? It's super, super huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it reinforces it. It makes it real. I mean, I ran events for 8 years, and that was exactly it. We had a trading community, right? So I worked for the world's biggest options traders, right? The most
Yeah.
famous options traders in the world, and we had a super large trading community. And from there, we had live events where people would come and meet. They'd meet their friends and family, everybody that they kind of friends and family. They met their friends that they'd met and their colleagues in the trading rooms, and then they get to actually meet their heroes, and it creates a whole brand. I mean, it's just incredible for that brand retention. And then for sales, yeah, people like that face-to-face when they're buying something. I think that's incredibly important. So,
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the bodybuilding community, there was literally an event every other weekend in South Florida, right? So you would go to those events, you'll meet people, you'll connect with people. They're like, oh yeah, you do this, you do that, right? So like your influence just grow. Like I would even go to like the Arnold Classics and the Mr. Olympias, and I'll show up there, and everybody's like, because I've already been in like these events in South Florida, and it's like they're so influential. I'll go to those expos and those events, and everybody will like already know who I was and things like that. So events is where it's at. Like that's where you get the most connections at the end of the day, because it's in person and they connect with you on face-to-face level versus a screen-to-screen level, you know?
yeah, totally.
So dude, so like what have I mean, I know we only got a few more minutes left, but like what have you been digging into recently as far as books is concerned? Like what have you been learning?
Sure, I got a couple right here. Actually, I'm reading multiple books at any given time. I have 2 that I'm reading. I'm rereading this one, Anthony Scaramucci's newest book, Wall Street to the White House and Back.
Okay.
A lot of a lot of short lessons. I mean, he's got an amazing career, especially if you're in sales. I mean, he is one of the best salesmen in the world. He raised capital, for Goldman Sachs. He was on Wall Street. This guy is dealing with multi-billion-dollar deals, right? I mean, so there's a lot of lessons that I learned there. I love Anthony. And then I've been reading this one as well, Same as Ever from Morgan Housel, which I've been kind of exploring this topic lately, which is, how foundations, right? Things that are foundational, especially like when it comes to any kind of services, marketing, like at the end of the day, when you provide a basic service, right, you have to deliver what people expect. Like things don't change that frequently. There might be a new system, a new way of doing something, a new automation, there's funnels, there's websites, like there's just things change, right? But at the end of the day, people want leads, or they want to get their message out there, or they want their revenues to increase. So learning fundamentals, right? Going back to things that never change, things like that, right? Everyone wants more leads. Everyone wants more sales, right? Everyone wants to know, how can I, sell more product? Or it's the basic questions that got to get answered first. And then you can start playing with all of the fun, funnels and all the different bells and whistles to accomplish the goal, right? But what are the fundamentals? So that's the theme that I've been on. What are the fundamentals? So
Yeah. And as far as myself, like I've actually been reading more like business style books. So let me see here. I need to pull it up. This one, this one. Yeah, these are the last two that I've read, and I'm actually going through this one right now. Yes, all the books that I read are behind me. So I've actually been reading this one, Your Next Five Moves by Patrick Bet-David. This is a really, really good book if you want to be able to strategically build a business and how to be able to get over the hurdles and being able to basically just like what it says, plan your next five moves inside of your business. Don't be, this is what I need to do today. No, like you could actually go and figure out what you need to do and know what action plans you need to do in order to get there. Atomic Habits. And the reason for this is because for me, consistency is a very, very hard thing to do. And consistency is the name of the game, especially when you're in business, to be able to like build momentum and get yourself in a place. And I remember, and again, I always equate things back to bodybuilding. When I was in bodybuilding, my life was like so structured that I literally progressed forward in a lot of things that I didn't know I was capable of. And then when I stopped bodybuilding, all that structure went out the window, and it was some of the hardest times of my life. So me just thinking about that, like I wanted to go back into Atomic Habits, and this one's another one, Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, which is a nice classic. So I'm going back into this book right now, just because of the fact that like I'm a typical Cuban. I worry all the time, right? So, I've always had a life of anxiety and worry. So, going back into that and just like understanding like how to get over those hurdles, how to live in today, which I'm literally only on the first two chapters, and I've been festering on those two chapters just like to have a deep understanding, because even in the book it goes, do the first two chapters, see how your life's changed, and then start moving to the rest. So like that's what I'm doing now. So applying my habits, applying putting in those methods to stop worrying and things like that. So those are the stuff that I've even moved into. And then I've even done like Choose Your Enemy Wisely, which I'm probably going to dig back into. But it's a very, very good motivational book, motivational business book, so that you can use the power of people that are ahead of you that you want to be better of in order to succeed in business. So
That's
that's
also
what I,
Patrick Pat David, right? Those are, yeah. Awesome.
yeah. And I had the opportunity to get it signed by the man himself. So funny story about that, right? Like he was having a book signing up here in Fort Lauderdale, and we weren't thinking about, me and my wife weren't thinking about doing it. Look, I got both of them signed. We weren't thinking about doing it at all. And she goes, "Hey, I think we should just go, right? You got two books. He's only doing the signings for his new Academy one." And I was like, "Yeah, let's just go." So we drove up an hour in order to go see him. We show up, and they're like, "Hey, we just cut off the line." I'm like, "No, like, please don't tell me." Yeah, this is the last guy that we just cut off the line. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I just drove here an hour with my family. My kids are here, everything like that. Like, you can't tell me that the line's closed. Like, look. Stick around for a little bit. Let's see what we can do. So, like, other people will come in, they will get like turned away and everything like that. But like, I stayed there, and all the ladies got to know me from the bookstore. They're like, okay, like, don't worry about it. Like, we'll figure out something. Dude, literally at the last moment, the last guy that was walking up the escalator of the Barnes and Noble to where he was at, they're like, "Come here." They put me in, they put my pass on, and like they stuck me in at the last of the line. So I was the second to last guy to see Patrick
Wow.
and get it. But I was like, I honestly was like so nervous like when I walked up to
Sure.
him.
Sure.
But just because of the situation on how it happened, I'm like, dude, it was insane that like I was able to get that done. But
Meeting your heroes is always fun. It's
yeah,
it's a good
yeah,
time, man.
yeah, man, yeah. So that was good times, man. But yeah, dude, I always dive back into those books because I think those books are just freaking amazing at the end of the day.
They are. Got to learn. Go
Yep,
back to the origins.
yep, absolutely. All right, so I guess let's wrap it up because I know both you and I have something in like 5 minutes. So
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks a lot.
yeah,
Thanks for viewing. I don't know how many people are watching, but thanks for watching. It's a lot of fun, and we'll do this again
yeah,
soon, maybe.
yeah. No, I mean, I think we got like a few people on Twitter or X. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Elon. Please don't kill me for that one. I had a few people on LinkedIn. We had a few people on Facebook. Man, I think
it's
this
great.
was a good one. Yeah,
Yeah, I've got a bunch of messages on LinkedIn. So hey, thanks guys for watching. Appreciate it, Eddie. Thanks a lot, man.
yeah. Thank you so much, brother. So yeah, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
See ya.